do have a list here of the talks. All right, we're gonna get the program started. You want a microphone or are you good? So Bob Hamilton is holds many hats in the county here, but he'll tell you a bit more about it. But we thought it'd be interesting to know about the whole new radio system that got put in, part of which is sitting on the tower just not 100 yards from here. So so Bob, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, just a little bit about myself. I've been a volunteer fireman 50 years this year. I've been a ham about 40 years, and I got started in ham radio because I was in the Air Force and I was in the Air Force Weather Service. And when I got out of the Air Force, I wanted to stay in it. And so that one way to do it was to do it through Skywarn. So I took on, got into Skywarn, got my tech license back then. And it seemed like I was living in South Bend, Indiana at the time. And very quickly, when they found out my experience and knowledge of the weather, the local ham said, "Okay, you're the county coordinator." So I've been playing the public service game a long time, and I'm deputy director of emergency management for the town of Vestal, and I'm one of the radio coordinators for the town of Vestal. So I got very deeply involved in this new radio system and its implementation within the town of Vestal. So let's see what we got.
Is this being recorded? Because people that couldn't make it asked.
I don't know what Drew's got set up.
Because they asked, they couldn't make it.
Well, Drew's out in the lobby, so.
Doesn't say on there anywhere.
All right, how's this button work here? Not that one, not that one.
You are screen sharing. Did he even stop the recording though?
All right.
Hold on.
Okay.
We'll get you there.
All right. Which button am I pushing?
Right.
Is it
Okay.
being recorded?
Yes, we're still recording.
Okay. Just a kind of a short history on the radio systems. We're going to go through a little bit of analog. You guys really understand analog radio. Talk a little bit about digital, but the new system is P25, and we'll get much more deeply involved in the P25. There's a phase 1 and a phase 2, and then we'll talk about the Broome County system. So with analog radio, it's the bread and butter. It's what we've been dealing with for well over 100 years. So I'm not even going to talk much about analog, okay? Sine wave, AM, amplitude modulation, or frequency modulation. So as hams, we're good. A few years ago, FCC decided we had to go narrow banding. And what right now, our 2-meter rigs, our equipment as hams still operate on 25 kilohertz bandwidth. We pack that sine wave with all of our information into that 25 kilohertz. But they went with the public service radios with the technology and the equipment capabilities. They narrow banded it. They cut it to 12.5 kilohertz. So we're still using that same sine wave pattern, but we're packing it into that 12.5 kilohertz. And for it, every once in a while, when people are asking for signal reports and stuff, when their audio seems down, it's like, are you narrow banded or are you wide banded?
Yeah.
So that's something to be aware of when you're programming your radios. We're still on the wide band. Public service is narrow band. Okay, analog versus digital. We're used to the sine wave. Digital is a square wave. It's on, it's off. And that's how the name digital radio came in, because it's basically ones and zeros. It's on, it's off. And you're taking and converting the sound that we're, coming out into a digital ones and zeros type sine wave with a signal waveform. With the analog system, it still sounds like us. I mean, you can pick out anytime we key a mic, somebody keys a mic, it's like, yeah, I know it's Ford, I know it's Ed. It's really simple. With the digital, because it converted into ones and zeros and then converted it back, it sounds a little more computerized. It sounds a little more mechanical. Yeah, if somebody is really talking properly into their mic and stuff, I can recognize voices on a digital radio, but other times it sounds like a robot. So some of the differences, some of the comparisons. Analog, we're still using that sine wave, so we're filling the whole time slot with a sine wave. Digital, we're using much less power, and we're squaring it off, and there's much less time on the system. And you'll see that becomes very, very important when we start talking about the new system that we're installing in Broome County. The sine wave is a continual oscillation. The digital is a discontinuous because it's either on or it's off. We're not seeing this. Which, battery power wise, we're using less power. Plus the fact that because we're using either full power or no power, we can penetrate buildings a little better with digital signals. The one thing that you will see, and I couldn't find a chart to actually show this, is that when you're looking at an analog signal, it starts to taper off. And as it tapers off, it gets more staticky, it may break up a little, you can't quite understand the person, but you can still get a conversation going. With digital, yeah, it holds nice, and then when you start losing those ones and zeros, boom, it's gone. So that's something, a difference between the two. All right, digital DMR, digital mobile radio. There are some open source digital systems, but there are also many, many more probably that are proprietary technology. If you talk Motorola, you're talking Motorola Turbo. That's the right one, right? Turbo? Yeah. If you don't have a Motorola radio, you can't use it. Yaesu, Fusion. Okay, got the Fusion repeater out here. If you don't have a Yaesu radio, you can't use it. So the problem with digital is there are many, many proprietary systems out there. Some we've heard of. When I was doing some research, there's a lot more. It's like, wow, I've never heard of that. I didn't know there were that many different kinds of digital systems out there. So it can be a problem. And as I said, the companies set their own protocols. Theirs, she's got theirs, and on. Okay, now we're talking digital P25. Because of this proprietary problem, now it's a problem for the public service, for the fire departments, the police departments, for areas. All right, I don't want to use Motorola. I want to use Kenwood. I want to use this company's radio. I want to use Harris radios. Well, with the proprietary ones, you're stuck. And that makes it a problem with agencies. This one wants Motorola, this one doesn't. So they came up with P25, and basically it's an open source. I don't know if it was the FCC or exactly who, Homeland Security said, we need this open source type system. So that here in Vestal, we're using Motorola, we're using Kenwood, and we're using Harris radios. Depends on what we want to use it for. So it just made it a whole lot easier for the public safety organizations. Okay, so let's get down, push too many. Did I lose a slide? No, Broome County. Why upgrade? Why do we need a new radio system? Well, we were on 3 different bands. We were on HF, we were on VHF, we were on UHF. When I started going through radio reference and looking, I bet we had, between fire and police and ambulance and highway departments and hospitals and everything, I bet we had over 100 frequencies tied up. Okay, a lot of frequencies. You go buy a new fire truck and you're in the town of Binghamton. They were on 3390. Nobody makes a 3390 radio anymore. So equipment's no longer available, depending on the location. Vestal just got called mutual aid to the town of Binghamton. Couldn't talk to him on the radio. Vestal was on DHF. Town of Binghamton was on on HF. Caused a lot of problems all over Broome County. And then interagency communications was lacking. I want to talk to Vestal Highway Department. I need a different radio. You know, it's just, we didn't have interagency operability there. So all of these things put together says, we got to come up with the latest, newest technology. So let's take a look at the new system. Well, we've got this big thing, Central New York Interoperable Communications Consortium. Wow. What does that mean? That means every county that basically is in the corridor, 81 corridor from Broome County, the Pennsylvania line, to Watertown, has joined this consortium. And we're all putting in the same kind of equipment. And just recently, I was helping program some of the fire truck radios. Our programming guy came down from Syracuse and he says, hey, let's test this. And he keys up the radio, a Broome County radio, and he's talking to the Onondaga County Dispatch Center on UHF. And I'll show you how that's possible in a few minutes. So now, one of the northern fire departments, Whitney Point or somebody, gets called up to Cortland County. They can talk. In the past, they couldn't. We're having more and more big emergencies where we get deployed to areas. I got sent down to Long Island for Sandy. Okay, let's say they have a big ice storm up in Watertown. Now we can go all the way to Watertown and still use our same radios with just a couple of tweaks in the dispatch center. So they've built this consortium. This is I think it's an experiment in New York State because no place else in New York State has done this. This is the first place. In Broome County, what does it mean? Fire, EMS, police, highways, transit, parks, and eventually schools. Schools didn't go over because of the cost of the equipment. But schools, they've left space in the system for the schools, are all on one unified system. We're all using the same radios. Broome County spent $34 million to put this system in. Some definitions that as I go further into the talk, it'll help. The core, depending on who you're talking to, some of the guys around here will use the term core. It's really the central computer, the mainframe, the master controller. Talk groups, we're changing from channels to talk groups. And I'll explain these more as we get into them. Zones are banks of talk groups. I can put 14 channels or 14 talk groups in a zone, but then I can switch zones. And I'll show you that in a minute. You'll see the term on network. They're all repeated talk groups. We got a ton of repeaters. And off network is simplex. So the P25 devices, I kind of came up with this. They're more a computer now than they are a radio. They're taking and changing your voice from analog to a digital signal and then converting it back. They're controlling the talk groups. They're controlling the frequencies. I know I'm going to really freak you out when I talk about the frequencies because it's really different. So I think these things are more computer than they are radio. It's a computer with a radio attached. So the trunk system, we've got our radios, our subscribers. We've got, this is actually, it looks like multiple towers. This is basically one tower with multiple repeaters in it. All right. All of the tower sites link into the central controller, the master controller, the core, and then the dispatchers and the systems administrators can tie in and make changes on the fly. Some of these radios are actually programmable over the air. You don't have to plug in, you don't have to do anything to them. Somebody remotely can just done.
Where's the control center?
Onondaga County.
Holy cow.
Onondaga County.
Wow.
All right. For all of these areas that I talked about, Pennsylvania line to Watertown, it's in Onondaga County.
And don't we have the backup though?
We have a backup. We are both fiber optically linked and we are microwave linked to it. But we have some backups. I mean, you can see the backup. It says on your backup. So if we were to have a problem and it go down, it wouldn't take the system totally down. It would reduce some of the capability, but it wouldn't take the system totally down. Broome County was broken into 2 zones, an east and a west. The orange dots are the towers in the east, the green dots are the towers in the west, and the yellow dots are non-P25 sites. They're all linked. They're all linked. Now you're used to using the 865 where Ford has a single transmitter and then voting receivers around. This is also a voting system, but there are transmitters and receivers at all the towers. So it will vote to, you know, I'm down here someplace. What tower is hearing me best? And then it will go to that tower and do everything from that tower.
And some of those towers are where the remote receivers are. That we're using on the 865 and 82. So that's why the system works as good as it does.
All right.
It's on good sites.
We're on P25, phase 2, TDMA, and this is the frequency list. I'm not talking hundreds of frequencies. I'm talking 9. But phase 2, phase 1, 1 transmission, 1 frequency. Phase 2, here, splits. Oh, hey, look at this. We went to 12.5. Now we're at 6.25. We just went from narrow band to skinny band. And I've heard people using that term, skinny band. And it's doing it through a time system where it's taking a transmission, it's digitized, it packs it in. It says, all right, I'm going to give you this much time. Now the next guy. Now the other one. And then back and forth. And so now we're actually able to carry 2 separate transmissions on 1 frequency. Digital.
Because it's time sliced.
Time sliced. Yep.
The TDMA is time division, multiple access.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
Yep. All right. This is the fleet map. This is what is in this Vestal radio. Wow. All right. That's only one page of it. Here's the next page. All right. Now, in the past, on the analog system, every one of these would be a frequency. Now we're packing all of that into those 8 frequencies. There's the county's broken up into battalions. We've got a disaster area. So if we had to have more frequencies, everything in white is repeated. Everything in orange or whatever color that is direct. It's simplex. But you can see we've got Chenango County, Delaware County. Tioga County is not there yet. They're thinking that possibly as early as the end of next year, Tioga County may start coming on board. In Vestal, we went and got a special zone just for us because we wanted to be able to talk to all of the town agencies. So when you look down, you can see police, you can see fire, ambulance, our operations frequencies, highway, DPW, parks. We've got everything in our zone so that I don't have to go looking around. Where's that? I can just change the channel knob, and talk to the highway department, talk to the police department. So that's all packed into these radios. Now, I'm giving you a lot of bits and pieces of information, and we're going to put it all together here in a minute. Matter of fact, we're going to put it all together here right now. So I pick up this radio and I want to talk. I want to talk to the fire chief. And I key the microphone. And you get a courtesy beep. It's really not just a courtesy beep. A whole lot of stuff going on when you hear that beep. It's going, all right. Oops. That radio talks to the repeater. And the repeater talks to the mainframe. And the mainframe is saying, oh, Bob Hamilton's radio wants to go on the air. Well, now it goes back to all those talk groups and it finds every radio that's on those talk groups, on the talk group that I'm on. And it says, puts out an announcement. Oh, and it's doing that on a control frequency. Every radio is on a control frequency. Hey, Bob Hamilton's radio wants to talk. Still during that courtesy beep, it's sending it all back out to all the radios on the talk group saying, hey, he's going to talk, listen up. And it's going to be on this frequency. It's going to be on frequency A. You know, beep, all that's happening. So now I talk. And I give my message to the fire chief. And the fire chief thinks about it for a second or two. It says, okay. And he answers me back. And it stays, the mainframe holds that frequency. Now he lets up and there's no more transmission and it's quiet for a while. Well, the mainframe is saying, nobody's using that frequency, I'm taking it back. This is why your scanners, besides being digital, this is why your scanners don't want to work anymore, is because it's constantly changing the frequency. It's going to A, it's going to B, it's going to E, it's coming back to A. Every time you key up, it's making the announcement out. I'm keying up on this. I want that frequency. I'm using it. We're all done. Give it back. And this is how we're putting all of these agencies. They said parks, police, BC Transit, fire, ambulance. Everybody is on those frequencies because listen to our repeaters. How many hours do they sit silent? A lot. So we're just taking and digitizing it. We're packing it into these little packets. We're sending it out. We're using it. We're not using it. Give it back. Okay, there's Broome County, the fire battalions. Eastern Broome County is Battalion 1. The city is Battalion 2. Western Broome is Battalion 3, and the northern part is Battalion 4. And we operate all independently of each other until there's an emergency and we have to start talking, cross-talking. And then we can cross-talk very, very easily. Okay, with all of that, they don't need us anymore. Look at all this technology. Wrong. Wrong. And I've heard people say that. Oh man, look at all this technology they got. That they got this new $34 million radio system. They don't need us anymore. Wrong. Look at your latest QST. Mine just came a couple of days ago. There's an article in there from the state of Florida. What's the biggest problem with a system like this?
It goes down.
Backhaul and the
Hurricane.
interconnections.
And the tower down.
Interconnections?
So they
It's-
have to be on site to be reporting about it.
Well, not even that. It's a computer. The biggest fear is a hack, is a cyber attack. The exercise that Florida just did with the hams was a cyber attack.
Oh, yeah, the statewide broadcast.
Nope.
Yep.
New York, although they didn't involve hams, New York has this organization, OIEC, It's part of Homeland Security. Okay, now I'm gonna, Operation OIEC, interoperability emergency communications. Okay, and they last year did an exercise just to test their own abilities with a cyber attack. They have some really neat toys. They have some comm vans and trucks that are unbelievable with antennas and radios. Oh, and all these guys in OIEC or OEIC or whatever it is are hams.
Wow.
They're all hams. Because I went to a meeting and I got talking to one guy one day and he started telling me about the radios and the frequencies. I said, "Oh, you're just above the 40 meter band." And he looked at, "Oh, you're a ham." Yeah. He called the operations center in Albany, got on the cell phone, called the operations center in Albany. "Hey, anybody in the radio room?" Yeah, the guy answered the phone. He says, "I'm there right now." Turn on the radio. From his van over on Wayne Street in Enwell, he got on 40 meters and he talked into the state operations center in Albany. They still feel very strongly about ham radio. It's anything, they still say, if all of this technology fails, ham radio is still going to work. Okay, we get an ice storm and we tear towers down. We have damage to systems. We know how to fix it. We know how to make antennas. We have portable radios in our cars. The radio in my car is also a dual band repeater, cross band repeater. I can with a couple of button strokes, I can change and have a dual band or a cross band repeater. Very easy. We can do all of that. When those systems go down, they need skilled technicians that have been schooled, and it may take hours, it may take days to bring them back online.
Question?
Yes.
What do you do in the case of the EMP attack?
That's a whole nother subject. That's a whole nother subject. I couldn't even.
Semaphore flag.
Yeah. I don't know if I could even talk to that right now. Okay. But for communications failures, tower failures, we get a tornado, we get an ice storm, we get something, maybe the tower doesn't go down, but there's enough ice on the antennas and it strips the antennas. We know how to fix that. And I've seen story after story. My brother lived in Florida for a while. Hurricane hit just about 35 miles south of where he lived. They lost their 800 megahertz system. They put the call out. We need hams. He spent 3 days riding in a fire chief's car as his communicator. So don't ever think that due to all this technology, we're not needed. It's just Vestal has invested in ham radio. We have the 4.7 repeater out here now. We put in a generator for it with an automatic transfer switch. All right. We just finished installing a new HF rig that Drew made a mention to down at the library. So we have HF capability. Broome County doesn't even have HF capability. So we have HF capability in Vestal. I have just taken and put, with this radio transfer, we found out a lot of our Kenwood portables were type accepted down into the ham radio range into 2 meters. So I have just reprogrammed a whole bunch of them that are going to go in our EOC that, oh yeah, it's hit the fan on us. Who needs a radio? So emergency management has really bought into ham radio. So don't ever think it's not there. Questions? Threw a lot of information at you. Yeah.
Are you connected with state and federal agencies through this?
The new system does have DEC, does have state police. They all have talk groups. Yep, they all have talk groups. We do have certain frequency or talk groups that are, they're UCall, UTAC is their terminology, and they are nationwide, channels. Go anywhere in the country, and a county is supposed to have those on, in their radios, so that you can, you know, you get deployed, I can talk with my radio. Yep.
Okay, so I assume your mutual assistance for Northern PA.
Yeah,
That's-
that's still a problem.
Okay,
That's still a problem. And
Yeah.
that's a problem. That is a big problem. We've got the tower here and it looks right down 26 to 267. Okay, fine. And we're good until we get down to about St. Joseph. But then it falls right out. I've taken this radio over to the Silver Lake Firehouse and I have no signal at all. Zero. So we did maintain a few radios that are on the analog system for Susquehanna County. So we have maintained some of that capability.
we got another one.
Yep.
So when you press the button and you want to talk to the fire chief, how do you press the button, because you want to talk to the police chief?
I just have to go to his talk group, just change the knob. And
So
Go
it's
ahead,
6
talk.
instead of 3, so you have to know that?
it actually, it's got a digital display right on the front and it tells me where I'm at.
Okay,
See,
Uh,
these radios, they don't change, you don't change frequency, you go by talk group.
yep.
And, it's all talk groups.
Yep.
So if Onondaga County goes down and Broome County picks up, do they pick up for the whole area or just Broome County?
Each county has a backup system, but like I said, it's a very small system. You may lose some capability. But Onondaga, and the reason they did that is cost. The cost of maintaining that mainframe is huge. And the county, an individual county did not want to take on that cost. So they put in these smaller backup units and have the main core system in Onondaga.
Has this been fault tested already? Shut down?
They have been on the system for quite a while, Onondaga.
Okay.
And they have never had an issue with it so far.
And across the country, this isn't new.
No.
There's other states out in the west coast and all, where they've used this for years. It was, probably, it was back about the time we had the neural band, so that was around 2013 or so. State of Delaware was going to a trunking system. It was a phase 1 system, but they were going to it. NYSEX had trunking since I retired in 2002, and they had the trunking when I retired.
Yeah,
And,
trunking is
so-
not new. It's the P25 open source system that's fairly
Yeah,
new.
phase 2 is the newest.
And phase 2 is the newest and greatest. The big difference between phase 2 and phase 1 is that fact of we're not splitting the individual frequencies into 2 usable groups. On phase 1, you just use the frequency. Some of the groups up there are still phase 1. We are the latest and greatest with phase 2.
So if you're going from Vestal up to Watertown, who do you have to contact to tell them, okay, switch us over to the top groups up in Watertown?
Your dispatch center.
And they know how to do that?
Yep.
Is there, do you need to actually identify your radio, or is it that they, they say, you gotta go up there, how do they know to change your radio?
Every radio has its own individual identifier.
All right,
And we can do
is that
that.
something you have to tell them, or they can
Pull it, they can pull it.
Okay, they can pull that as you're talking.
Yep.
All right, cool.
Yeah, you could chunk and they know it, and even, a lot of people don't know this, but Motorola, out in Schaumburg, Illinois, they can control what's going on in Syracuse right from the big Motorola place. And they can change programming the whole work.
Some of the other things that with the radios, these are expensive. I have not known.
4,000, aren't they?
These are about 3.
Wow.
You buy them in bulk.
Yeah. Yeah. Broome County had to give Vestal 100 of them. Actually, 105 of them. But they have some features in them, like the microphones are noise canceling. I can stand next to a fire truck that is screaming that the pump is running and the motor is howling, and I can talk into it and it cancels out all the background noise. I can just stand there in a normal voice and talk. The other thing that happens is when you get that key and you get that courtesy beep, the radio says, this radio is on the air. So somebody grabbed the radio about the same time I did, but I beat him to the button. He gets what they call a bonk. I get this like, beep. He gets a boom. Because, hey, the frequency's busy, you can't talk. So you don't have people talking over each other. But as soon as I let up and I stop talking and it says, oh, the frequency's not used, he gets a beep, frequency's available. Go ahead and talk.
Why don't they just switch them to another frequency?
Well, you're all on the same talk group.
Okay, so
So you got two or three firemen that are trying to talk. You don't have any crosstalk over talk now. Whoever's radio got there first is in charge. His radio is in charge until he releases it.
But see, at the same time that you got, like, say, the fire department, Bob's talking to the fire chief in Vestal. One of the repeaters, one of 5 repeaters is keyed up on, for Bob and the fire chief. But, Broome County Sheriff's Unit 135 calls in, he gets assigned to another repeater. So you've got so with 5 repeaters, with the 2 slots, you got the capability of 10 different conversations going on at the same time. For that phase 2 system. And of course, as soon as one lets off, then it's up for grabs again. It's quite a system. Yeah.
Okay, more questions? I saw a hand in the back, was waiting.
All the stuff we're talking about is transparent to the people who are using it, right?
Right.
You just pick up a radio and try to call it.
I did this presentation for you guys because you've got a radio background, and I've heard a lot of questions about why doesn't my scanner work anymore. So I did this a little more technical than, I mean, what I do to train a fireman is I teach them how to turn the knobs.
Well, then have you exercised that whole map that you showed, or is it actually even used for things? Or is there an exercise involved, or just to make sure everything's?
All of the fire departments are on the system right now.
Right.
They started going on in the spring. All of the highway departments and the DPWs are on the system now. Police departments are now starting to phase into it.
Sheriff is being converted over this week.
So,
But I mean, like a scenario like, just to check the interoperability, not just in the system, but make sure everybody knows kind of who everybody else is and who can talk to who.
that's all done in the training that we do. And we've handed out, like to Vestal, we've got that, fleet map. The firemen had all seen, the fleet map, and they know where to go. And you can't, I want to change talk groups. No, you have to have permission from a dispatcher. Or they will tell you, like a fire department responds. We all work off of a talk group, battalion 3-1. But as the department responds, they'll say, go to ops 3, go to ops 4. So they're telling them where to go if they want them off the main dispatch.
That's quite, I mean, I'll just be like I said, I would imagine that people would have to make that decision. That would take some intensive, not just training, but also repetition, because that seems like in a real life scenario, it could be easy to lose track of. Seems, I'm a layman, I don't know, but it seems like it would be easy to lose track of what's going on and maintain the site picture,
Actually, when you're used to using it,
Right.
It's very simple. Yeah, it's not hard at all. If I were to sit down with you and actually go through the actual radio with you, you'd go, oh, okay. Because like I said, there's a digital display on the front, and it tells me you're on this talk group, you're on this zone, if I change it, it's telling me that. It's not just, I'm just not looking at it. It's telling me through the radio. There's an audio.
Just to tell us what frequency.
Fire department 2.
Yeah.
And they tell us when they dispatch us what op frequency we're gonna be on.
If you want an interesting one,
Why would you have to know?
No, what ops channel we go to. What ops channel we were gonna be operating.
hey, Bob,
This is outstanding, fantastic. I'm glad I live here. I feel a lot safer, and thank you for what you're doing for all of us. Question, this is it sounds like a voice-centric system. Are there capabilities for telemetry, like location, video, audio, fire scene updates, non-voice?
GPS.
So you know where we are.
They know where you are, but it's where you last transmitted, the last time you keyed. They couldn't afford the permanent GPS system.
The dynamic map with everything.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what about like updates man down or scene
Okay, yeah.
conditions, temperature? Or...
Battalion 3 dispatch.
See that orange button on the top?
Yes.
That's an emergency man down button.
Right.
I push that button. It goes to a special frequency for that only, excuse me, man. It sends off an alarm in the dispatch center. And it will it's transmitting, so it's sending a GPS location. Okay. Dispatcher calls back, what's going on, are you okay? It actually holds the mic open. So that if the guy is standing here like this and I've been able to punch the button and he didn't realize it, he can hear what's happening.
I do, we have them on the school buses, the same thing, and let me tell you, the drivers hit them by accident all the time.
thing with this, from the RF standpoint. Okay, they went UHF. You see the way the terrain is around here, and anybody that's messed with UHF, try UHF TV and see how good you do. Motorola told the county that they guaranteed 95% coverage with a portable across the county.
Wow, everywhere?
Everywhere in the county. That was on the street, the HT on the guy's belt with the speaker mic.
Oh.
Up there, they guaranteed 95% coverage. Motorola set the county up in like low grid squares.
1 mile grid squares.
And they drove, they had, some of the guys with mobiles that went out, they had a mag mount quarter wave on the roof with an attenuator in it to simulate what an HT on the, belt would be. And they went around the county and checked all those spots, and it came back 98% coverage.
That's
wooded areas
included?
With that,
Wooded areas
Yes.
included.
they were on roads, but, they went out in the hinterlands of, down toward Deposit, and that whole area came out 98% coverage, with the portables. And I couldn't believe it, because I told, one of the guys at the county, I says, I hear what they're saying, but I says, I know a little bit about radio around here, and I says, I don't think you can do it. And they came back, he says, I gotta eat crow on that.
That is incredible. And I came from a more urban environment where in-building coverage was more a concern. Here, it's rural. How is it, like, I guess downtown Binghamton, maybe would be an example of where in-building.
Depending on the building, like they tested it at BU. And there are, I can't remember the name of them, but they're like repeaters, building repeaters.
Yep.
And that if they got into a building deep enough and they couldn't get out, they've been required to put in the building repeaters.
Those are pre-installed, not added.
The windows have the UV covering on them, and the radio waves don't like to go through those. I worked with them on that long ago.
So when necessary, they will put in a building repeater.
And all of us at schools have them.
Yeah.
How smart is it? Like, if I can't reach out from my radio, but somebody that's in the truck near me could, would it be able to hit from their radio and then bounce that to the repeater?
No.
Okay, because I know some of mobiles will do that, like you could set it up to basically listen to the portables and then ship it up to the.
No, the trucks, the system does not have a repeater, like a vehicle repeater set up in that way. It will tell me, it does tell me that if I'm, whether it's seeing, like right now, it's seeing the satellite, it's seeing, better see the tower.
Yeah, better see the tower.
And if it doesn't see the tower, it will I'll get a red light on the display that it's not making the system. But then again, we've got these places in PA that if we get down there, we can always go to the simplex on these and use the 40-watt radios in the apparatus or in the cars to talk back if we have to.
I apologize for all the questions.
No, that's great.
It's so amazing. There was a lot of talk and interest in cellular solutions, like maybe FirstNet. Does this integrate or replace or totally separate?
FirstNet's it's a cellular thing.
Yeah.
Cellular is 800 megahertz. One of the questions I've heard is, why didn't we go to 800 megahertz? We had to put up 16 towers in Broome County for UHF. They figured we had to do 32 towers.
Yeah.
And a $34 million system, they couldn't afford 16 more towers.
But like Tompkins County, they can do the whole county on 800 megs with portables.
Yep.
By what portables? Because it's more flat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's correct. Yeah.
And Tompkins has been on 800 for years.
Another one.
How much would a scanner that's compatible with the system run you roughly?
Well, yeah.
$20, second job.
How you want, I mean, if you want to go to and use your computer and plug in a USB dongle, very, very little. You want something like this, you're talking $500 to $600. You want a desktop, you're talking $600 to $700. Ford's got one of his here, desktops. So it all depends on what you want to do. This is mine. The one thing about it is that it's programmable from a computer, or I can just say, I'm going to this zip code. Give me everything near that zip code. I did that when I went home. I grew up over in the Hudson Valley. I went home for an event, and I said, geez, I don't want to reprogram this whole thing. Give me the zip code. I was hearing all kinds of stuff. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna put it into frequencies in the talk groups. But yeah, no, the scanners aren't cheap. They're not cheap if you want one. This is a unit in SDS 100. The desktop version of this same exact electronics and programming is the SDS 200.
We happen to know a couple that are, if I may, Bob.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you guys are looking for some, one of the reasons I brought it, okay, that's a little, this is the predecessor to what Bob just showed you. These here were around $600 new, and now they're the price is still up there, but there's some used. I know a guy right locally that's got two just like this for sale. I don't know what the price is, but if you're interested, get with me and I'll contact him and he can get with you. And also, this is the other one. It doesn't come with fancy mounting and all that. But this is what's these used to be like $650 for these. They're coming used on the market. He's also got one of these for sale. And there's also another one it's the BCD 996P2, which is lower price, and those can be had on the used market for $350 on up. But if you don't buy any of these, make sure they're phase 2 compatible or capable. Don't just buy one that does trunk tracking, because if it's not phase 2 compatible, you just got stuck because it won't work on the new system. Because the phase 1 is frequency division multiple access, where phase 2 is time division multiple access. But the beauty of it is like this one right here, she's sitting scanning, well, right now it's on top of Route 103, which is Battalion 3. And, the thing is nice, this thing sits right, it's listed on the control channel. And, then that control channel tells all the radios what frequency to go to. And, and something, those of you that have got them or any of that, and Bob showed with the frequencies that basically in the west, you've got a number of repeaters and they all sit on a control channel. And the west here is 453.8375. That's this tower, Union, Andrews Road, a bunch of them around. The radios all sit right here. You look at this and it's, it'll tell you, or turn this one on, it says 453.8375. In a few weeks, I don't know just when it is, this is official, but I talked to the county guy about it. They're going to be changing that frequency. So they gained another service, gave up their frequency, they got them another frequency. So the new control frequency is going to be 453.275. So what it allows now for the west, where before, right now, they're only running with four frequencies available, they will have 5 in a few weeks when this goes. And there's six repeaters right over here in the building. There's 6 repeaters that are sitting there, and the fans are screaming like crazy on the cooling fans on them, but there's 6 repeaters sitting right there. One of them is for control only. When Bob picks up that radio and presses that, he's talking on 458.8375. Right to that tower is telling it, okay, your radios all go to such and such. And then it will send some of those other channels that Bob showed on the frequencies. And the radios, the system tells everybody where to go. And just like your cell phone, you pick up your cell phone, you don't worry what channel you're on or any of that. The whole system takes care of it for you. If the hands are off, but it's quite an interesting thing. But it's a learning curve too. This way, I let it scan and stuff I don't want. I just keep blocking it out. So
If you do these and you load it from radio, and these are linked to radio reference.
well,
Anytime that they're updated, the databases are updated, and you can update the databases in these, and so they are changing the frequencies occasionally because this is still a new system.
Why is it that these brand new radios, people are unloading them already? Why?
because they're probably going to some of the newer ones, the fancier ones like Bob's got.
And it's answer the need.
Yep.
This is the newest,
So,
and it's Big Brother.
so what you got there for is an earlier version of that.
Right,
It's bigger,
right. And they,
but it works just as well.
right.
We have these in the fire chief's cars. The Big Brother to this is a desktop unit also. And they've got color displays. They've got, we didn't see the need to have all of that extra paraphernalia. The program, the computer program that I use to program this, I use to program this. It's really all the same. It's just the extra bells, more bells and whistles.
Right, and for here in Broome County, when all this gets changed over, and there's still the police that gotta come on now. That's the newest one that come on. There's one police department on it right now, and that's Endicott. Endicott was one of the first ones to go on, but all these other police departments that are going on in the whole works. But with one scanner, even the basic one like that BCD 996P2 I told you about, that's all you'll have to have to monitor Broome County. But if you're traveling, like say Bob or myself, I go someplace else. Like I was up to Stafford, Connecticut last Thursday. I could take this right here and just put in the zip code for up there. And it's all right in the database right here. I could hear everything that's going on up there in Hartford, Connecticut, or Stafford, Connecticut, or what have you. all the radios. So for people that are traveling or something, that's easy. Just like you said, you go down the Hudson Valley and that's it. But if you're just gonna be here at home, you know, all you need to be able to do is.
This one that comes, I played with these, this one comes with a little GPS unit. And you can, as you're traveling, it will just take and say, okay, I'm here, okay, what's now, what am I listening to now? And it'll travel with the GPS unit.
You don't even need the zip code, just.
Don't even need the zip code, let the GPS do it.
Right, and this I can knock it down by range. If I'm hearing too much, I can knock it down to a mile away or something. Don't pick up anything that's more than a mile away, but.
Oh, weather alert radio.
Yeah.
When I first set mine on my wife, mine's in the basement, you can hear it up in the bedroom, my wife's like, what's that? Weather alert.
What's that USB dongle you mentioned before?
I've not played with them, dude. You acted like, you right away said $20, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, if you used to have a scanner at home and you were listening to stuff and now you can't do that anymore, if you have a little bit of computer savvy, you can buy a little software-defined radio dongle for $20 and download shareware, free shareware called Trunk Tracker software, and you can monitor the whole system. You're tied to a computer, a Windows computer or a Raspberry Pi if you want to make it more portable. But you can monitor the system using a simple software-defined radio, and you know I've got a disc tone antenna on my roof.
So any of the USB SDRs were.
Yeah.
Preferred
Yeah.
to the other, really.
If the software supports it,
Trunk
yeah.
tracker.
Yeah. There's several applications for that. There's a learning curve for that too. It's not, the software is a little tricky. You go onto some discussion groups and you get some advice when you run into trouble and people help you out and then you're on.
And they're probably not, it's like $6,000.
Yeah.
And you can also go to Broadcastify and some of that's repeating what's going on around here.
Few of the channels, but yeah, not a lot.
The desktop version of this had a Ethernet connection on it. What the heck is that for? I can plug it into my router and I can put an app on my phone, and with the MAC address, I can turn my phone into my link to my scanner. You know, so
Watch out. It's got a lot of traffic, it'll bury your network.
yeah.
Since the county's switching over to this new system, what are they doing with all the, shall I say, dumb radios?
It's gonna be a lot of surplus radios around. And when you go out on eBay and you look, not worth, I mean, you paid hundreds of dollars for them and they'll be lucky if they can sell them for 20. I just took all of the best ones that Vestal had, as I said earlier, and I converted them either into ham radio or I set them up for Pennsylvania for the things that we don't have. And the old ones, I don't know what we're gonna do with them. We're gonna go find a county that's still on analog VHF and say, hey, you want some radios?
And a lot of the old stuff coming out is more raw and it's proprietary software on it. And you're not supposed to have it, and you could be arrested and thrown in jail if you got it. But there's bootleg stuff out there. You know, you don't go to Chirp and download your software for programming a Motorola radio.
There's a lot of surplus equipment around.
So are the services gonna be giving up their VHF frequencies?
Eventually. I mean, Vestal is licensed to a couple of them that we've got reasons that we want to hold on to them for a while, but eventually they'll go away.
You're dropping to the sun zone.
Think about a little auction to cellular.
Well, Bob, thank you so much. This was clearly very well understood. All right, so our next meeting will be August, the picnic, right? We'll get more information out on that.
That's the second Wednesday, isn't it?
Third.
Third, always the third.
I thought.
We don't go, it's always the third.
I thought when I looked at it today, it was on the site.
Information on it.
If you look at sign up sheet, they're right here, right on the pen.
Close out the
Recording.